thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is not your student's annual IEP. This is just a planning for the IEP meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Okay, and so what I'd like to do with you today is maybe get some more information from you about the ideas that you have coming up for your student over the next year, any questions that you might have on his current progress, or any questions that you might have about the IEP process in general. Okay. So looking at your student, he does qualify for an IEP under other health impairment, and that's that ADHD diagnosis that he has, as well as speech and language impairment, which he sees the speech pathologist here on campus for. Okay. So one of the pages that we're going to go over on his IEP is the present levels, and that's where we're going to talk about all of the strengths that he has here on campus. You can include any strengths that he has at home. That helps us develop a plan for him. And then also any concerns that you might have relevant to his academic progress. So is there anything you want me to take notes on right now?
I just want to make sure, because I know his attention is a challenge for him, so I just want to make sure that he's staying on top of his assignments, that he's not missing a lot. I did notice he had some missing assignments, this year, and that's just my concern moving forward, is that he kind of stays on top of that and he has the support to stay caught up with his classwork and his homework.
Okay, I can make note of that. That's really good to keep in mind, and we might even be able to come up with a goal, an assignment completion goal. So I can definitely look at all of anything that he's been missing over the years, and it's really nice, or over the year, but also really nice to get input from the general education teacher. And if she was, if they say that he had an off day, he had the opportunity to make it up but didn't make it up, so we can gather some more information from those general education teachers and see if a goal would be appropriate for him.
And will they be at the meeting too?
There will be one gen ed teacher at the meeting.
Okay.
And what I'll end up doing is just reaching out to all of the other teachers for any input that they have regarding his behavior in class, his academic progress, and any concerns that they might also have.
Okay, that's good. As I haven't heard anything about behavior, but I just want to make sure if that is a concern for any of them, that I can help follow up on.
Okay, and behavior sounds kind of like an ugly word, but it's really not. Behavior could be walking around the classroom 6 times instead of 3 times, or it's really anything that might impede his learning or the learning of others. It's not always an aggressive type of situation. Okay. So on this present levels, we're actually going to go over a lot. We're going to go over some of the results from his formal assessments, so the CASP testing that he had last spring, and we're also going to go over some informal assessments that we do here on campus that can include classroom assessments, that includes the assessments that I do to look at where he is academically, okay? And then we're also going to go over how he is as a student as a whole, so his communication skills, his gross and fine motor skills, vocational skills, and for him, that's how does he function here at school? Does he make it to class on time? Those kinds of things, and that homework completion piece. Okay. And then his adaptive daily living skills. Is he able to take care of himself at school? Is he also able to take care of himself at home? So is there anything in this that he hasn't generalized, home and school? And then his overall health. Okay. Then we're going to look at the special factors page. That's the page that we look at where we decide if the student requires assistive technology. So are they deaf or hard of hearing, blind or visually impaired? Do they have a behavior that impedes their learning or the learning of others? And for him, that's that ADHD piece, that inattention. And so he does currently have a behavior goal, and we'll be able to address the progress on that goal, as well as whether or not there's a need to continue to generate a new goal based off of that. Okay. And then the statewide assessments page, that's where we look at what does he need to be successful in that state standardized testing. And some of the accommodations can be embedded into the computerized testing. And so we'll make sure that when the testing rolls around, those supports are already available to him. And they've had a couple of chances to practice that throughout the year in ELA and math. So it's not going to be foreign to him. He's been able to see what those supports look like and use those. And then we also want to see what supports does he need outside of that computerized testing, such as separate setting. Does he need frequent breaks? So what do we need to make sure that he's successful in that testing? The other page we're going to look at is the goals page. So we'll be able to review the progress on his current goals, as well as look at some proposed goals that might or that will lend towards his success coming into the 7th grade year. Okay, do you have any questions so far?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then we're going to look at 2 different pages, and these.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So we're going to look at a 7th grade goal, like helping him for 7th grade. But
Yes.
even though he's still in 6th grade, he'll kind of start working toward that, so that way when he gets to that, he'll hopefully be able to meet that goal.
Yes, and when we're looking at current goals and drafted goals or future goals, we want to make sure that the skill that he's developed, that he's made progress on, it's something that we can build on in that next goal. So an ELA goal might have been writing 1 paragraph. Well, we're going to use that strength that he's developed, right? And we're going to find a 7th grade goal or a 7th grade standard that piggybacks off of that. And we're going to be able to use what he already knows and the skill that he's developed and stretch him to that next level.
Okay.
Thank you, that was a good question. So again, when we're looking at FAPE, the Free and Appropriate Public Education, we're looking at 2 separate things. We're looking at setting and we're looking at services. So the setting is where can he be most successful? And this year he has been in a general education classroom 96% of the day, and 4% of that is when he's receiving those pull-out services for speech. So his setting is general education. He's being very successful. The services is where we're going to look at, now that he's in that setting, what are we going to provide to him to make sure that he continues to be successful? And so that can look like supports and services and supplemental aids. So having directions rephrased, having him demonstrate understanding by repeating the directions back to the teacher. Small group instruction. Okay, so that's what that looks like when he's in that setting. Some modifications that we can make are focusing on mastery of concepts. So math, we might not be setting a 7th grade goal in math if he's successful at a 5th grade level. We don't want to stretch him beyond where he's not going to be successful. And so we can actually modify what he's learning and what we're testing to make sure that we're checking his growth. We can't hold him to other standards when we're working with him individually, and that's the part of the individualized education program. And so we'll be able to talk about what those needs are and how do we provide those needs in that services page offer of FAPE. Okay, do you have any questions about that?
So if he's in the gen ed class, how is he getting services? Like, who's helping him?
Okay, so in the math class, I am the education specialist who pushes into his math class. So I'm able to provide those supports and those modifications for him. So as the teacher is giving a lesson, I've been able to have access to that lesson, modify it so that he's getting the same domain, like the same math domain. Everybody's working on geometry, but he's working at a different level when needed. So there are some things in the class where he is at grade level, and there are other things in the class where he needs that extra support. And so I'm able to provide that for him. In ELA, social studies, and science, he's getting support from a paraeducator. And the way that we've designed our programs is not, a student doesn't feel targeted. The entire class just knows that there's an extra adult in the room who's there to help everybody. So there isn't a feeling of being, oh, that person's here to help me. The person's there to help everybody, but they're a trained professional who knows how to provide those supports. Okay. So looking at where he's been successful, we can use that again to build his next plan. Okay. And again, this is just a review of his current IEP, and any questions that you have or any concerns that you have, you can always address them to me. And I can, if you want, I can reach out to the team before the meeting if you have any questions for everybody else. And does that sound okay to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So after we go through everything, I will be taking notes as we're going through the meeting, and you'll get a copy of that notes page in the IEP. At the end of the meeting, before we sign everything, I'm just going to summarize it. And that's a good place for us to just kind of sit back, think about what we've talked about, review anything that we didn't talk about, and make sure that that meeting is complete for you. And then I will have you sign the agreement for the offer of FAPE. And then you'll actually get a copy of the IEP at the end of the meeting. So you'll be going home that day with a copy of the IEP.
Okay.
Okay? Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I will be sending home the meeting notice. I'll be putting it in the mail. And again, it'll be myself, one of the administrators, a general education teacher. I really like it if the students are there. So if you think it's appropriate, then we can have him come out of class for that meeting, and he can be part of that, and kind of gives them ownership because he is the I in IEP. And so everybody who participates will sign, and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.